Now, how do we start an MUN simulation? We usually start an MUN simulation by observing a minute of silence, followed by the roll call. Now, what is the roll call? A roll call is basically to ensure that we get the minimum number of delegates so as to start with an MUN conference, and that is what we precisely known as the quorum. Now, how does the roll call actually happen? In the UN for MUN procedure, the only way by which you mark yourself inside the committee is answering with present. Now, there are some other MUN conferences that take up some other procedure, and in that procedure you might have been informed that you can mark yourself either as present or present and voting. But since UN for MUN procedure in its true or in its impartial sense actually resembles the proceedings of the UN committees, in the United Nations itself, the delegates mark themselves as present, and that is the simplest and the most effective way to ensure that you give your roll call. Now, let's talk about how to give a roll call inside the committee. Now, to begin with, why roll call is important? Roll call is important so as to make sure that we have the desired quorum so as to begin with the proceedings of the committee. Now, what does quorum mean? Quorum means the minimum number of delegates that are required in order for the committee to start and function. If there won't be minimum number of delegates that are required for the committee to start, unfortunately the formal proceedings of the committee cannot be started. So, how to ensure that we calculate how many delegates we have inside the committee so as to know the required quorum? We take a roll call, and every delegate is expected to give his or her roll call either as present or present and voting. Now, what is the difference between present and voting? If you mark yourself as present, when we come to the subjective voting and procedural voting is something that we'll again take up very comprehensively. When at the end of the day we come to the subjective voting, you can abstain from vote. Wherein if you mark yourself as present and voting, you can't abstain from the final subjective voting. And to be very precise about the subjective voting is nothing but basically the voting upon the final documentation of your committee. So, you can mark yourself as present or you can mark yourself as present and voting. After every delegate has given his or her roll call, the numbers of the roll calls are tallied and the required quorum is calculated. And if at the end of the day we get that required quorum to begin with the committee proceedings, we officially begin with the formal discussion of the House. Ideally, in every committee, it's expected that the required quorum so as to begin with the proceedings of the committee will stand as 1/4 of the total strength of the House. Again, talking about the quorum on a very comprehensive note, we would set it to be 1/4 of the members present in the House.